So, you know, the Spotify stock price over the past 4 or 5 weeks has gone down considerably, but all stocks have gone down considerably. Okay. So if you look at it as a whole, there's no shocker here. In fact, today, an analyst from Citi actually put a change on the stock for Spotify from neutral to buy. So when they, because there are references on Twitter right now that this whole controversy with Joe Rogan is driving the stock down for Spotify. And that just is not true because A, all stocks have dropped. And B, here you go. Here's somebody at Citi, an analyst saying, hey, wait, I'm looking at the business model, not at the media hype. I'm looking at the business model, and the business model is strong. So the idea that Spotify felt a need to have Joe Rogan go out there and apologize because their stock is going down, that I believe is baloney. I think the bigger thing that they're worried about over at Spotify is what it is that they did to Parler. See, that's where the real problem is because, and that's what I dissect from this. Because when you look at what happened with Parler going back to January 6th, with Parler, they didn't go in and delete people's comments that said, we need to go take our country back. We're going to go get that, capital. I mean, obviously, January 6th and what we saw play out was disgusting, right? But how is that Parler's fault? And it wasn't Parler's fault. What that was at the time, Parler started to become the #1 downloaded app on both Google Play and on Apple app, depending on what device you're using, right? It became the #1 thing because they kicked off Donald J. Trump. And so the best way to silence them was to kill them at the knees. They couldn't walk anymore. And the reason being is because without Apple and without Google, you don't have your app on people's phones. So even though Spotify is a streaming service for music and for podcasts and everything, if Apple were to start getting the pressure and Google would start getting the pressure that you have to take this off the phones, well, then that destroys the business model of Spotify because without that, I mean, I'm a Spotify subscriber. It's an icon right next to the DML News app on my phone. If that goes away, that whole business collapses. And that's how powerful Google and Apple are. So when I'm listening to Joe Rogan give his speech there, his apology at the second tail part, I'm like, there's no doubt in my mind, this is what it is. They're afraid of getting canceled by the Google and the Apples of the world. And that's where the danger really rests.